Hello everyone and welcome to BearNews as we take a look at an indie title that's been making some waves in the grand strategy gaming community. Yes, we are taking a look at Manor Lords. Now this is an incredibly interesting game coming out soon, if for no other reason than it's being developed by a single person. The game is set to include settlement management as well as some larger scale skirmishes and combat involved, with even suggestions of later inclusions of sieges to come. Now what's been incredibly impressive to see so far isn't so much the way the game has been developing, though do not worry, we will soon get to that, but actually how the developer has been interacting with the community. A great example of this was the introduction of road systems and how they work. Following an update when they demonstrated construction acting in more of a grid-based system, they had a lot of players worried about whether this grid-based construction would be the limiting factor in how the game developed, which they quickly responded to, demonstrating how the grids could be used but are not a requirement. This level of interaction is a great thing to see from a developer, as it shows not only a regard for the community, but also a genuine interest and love in the game itself, taking on board what people have to suggest, as well as addressing their concerns and being open and transparent about how the game is progressing. Looking more towards introducing player choice rather than introducing limiting factors, and attempting to maintain the features that had gotten so many players so interested in this title, as well as some incredible pictures that have gotten so much of the community so interested in the developer themselves. But to pull back to the game itself, some of the features introduced are something that isn't even often included in many AAA titles today. So let's start from the basics. City building in this game looks incredibly simple, meaning accessibility is not going to be a problem for many gamers coming in, with some excellent automatic adjustments being placed into things such as roads to make them more manageable for the AI pathfinding, naturally happening for you as you plan out their placement. Now for anyone who's played some older city builder titles, building roads to find out they actually can't be used is an incredible annoyance, and something that I'm glad to see they've addressed, even if only accidentally. And with natural wear and tear being included to actually create their own road routes, this game will have a real life of its own, with no two settlements ever appearing the same, as the NPCs naturally carve out their own paths. And what's great, not only that this feature was introduced thanks to community interaction, but also suggestions that road building will have some kind of bonus applied to it, whereas the naturally developed wear and tear paths, though still paths, will not be as efficient as a properly constructed road system. Another great example of the reactionary element that this developer has brought into their game design. Talking about accessibility, the introduction of a development tree seems like a great streamlined application of tech trees, planting the technological development of your settlement directly onto the map and making it clear exactly what you will be doing with each expansion. Now each region is said to be rich within different types of resources, meaning you will end up specializing your regions to produce specific resources. Something that to a veteran strategy gamer is going to seem pretty standard, but for those new to the genre, having this set out in such a clear and simplified manner is a great advantage and a brilliant way to use the UI to interact directly with the game and tutorialize players as they go. And all of this regional development linking into an overall trade system keeps that settlement development and economic progression as a genuine consideration throughout the game, as your overall efficiency and production ability will have an actual effect on that trade outcome. This is represented with the market attractiveness system, once more keeping things nice and simple and laying it out clearly in what is simply a beautiful UI design. And this is extremely important, as trade will be the only way to gain wealth in the game. You can't simply produce money, you will have to gather your resources, produce a product from them, and then trade that product in order to bring wealth into your settlement. And for those hoping for the historical realism, Manor Lords has gone above and beyond, showing some serious attention to detail within their graphical elements. Period realistic clothing, armor, weaponry, and tools are all present within the game. And of course, this extends to your actual structures themselves. The settlements you build will look realistic to genuine medieval sites, with the developer even sharing the examples of sites they have used so as to give them inspiration for the game. something that makes it quite hard to argue against this historic realism when they've allowed you to compare the real game structures against the real-life examples. And though this great attention to detail does little more than immerse you within the world and appease those historical fans out there, we also see some consideration towards the seasons, the weather, and of course, disease. All of these are suggested to have an effect in the game and can even lead to the rise and fall of a town, something that will be great to see exactly how it's implemented into the game. Now, as you develop your own settlement, you will begin to interact with other lords, and this diplomacy system is something really to be looked at. It's essentially your basic click option dialogue boxes, but by turning them into a letter that you craft and send via emissaries, everything in this game is frankly dripping with immersion. It's something that is seriously worth some praise. When organizing your forces, thanks to community feedback, this game will afford you 3 separate ways to recruit your armies. Your militia are literally your peasantry outfitted with whatever weapons they can get their hands on and brought into battle, hopefully by their own will. These units can be trained up into specific types of militia such as archers, though this of course will take time, and all the time your peasants are not working on those resources, you're going to be losing money. Your second set are extremely expensive but effective mercenary units. You'll have to pay a substantial amount, but they are of course going to do significantly more damage and be far more capable in combat than basic militia. The final set, and the one I'm most interested in, are the Lord's Retinue. This is a specialized unit that you will get to customize and develop to your liking, giving a great chance to have your own say in how the battlefield looks and how your units will fight when they're sent into combat. I'm really looking forward to seeing how they further introduce more customization options, as I definitely want to introduce some round shields with full-on bear motifs across them. Now, there have been a lot of posts, particularly on Twitter, showing the development of some of the different aspects of war within this game. From simple things such as different entities within a unit having access to different equipment and therefore fielding slightly different arms and armor, all the way through to how these entities will actually interact as a solid unit. Taking a look at some of the videos that the developer has put up on their Twitter page as well as upon their YouTube channel, we have a great example here of slight variances within each of these unit shields, as well as plenty of variation within the armor and clothing that each one has worn, providing some nice color and some differentiation between each entity upon the battlefield. And this is definitely something I wanted to pick up on, as this is by choice. It's not a simple representation in-game that is randomized every time. You will have to actually dole out your equipment to different units, meaning you'll have to think long and hard about which units you give what and how you field them in the battlefield. We also see some great demonstrations of how formations will be introduced to the game. We'll just look past the fact this is a nude box and more upon the fact that as they move, the units themselves are keeping that formation all the while. There's also the classic waypoint system introduced, allowing for some excellent control of your units to pull off some of those more advanced maneuvers, getting into the flanks and rears of units to pull off some big debuffs against the enemy's morale. And one of the things I was so happy to see is the improvements towards collision. Gradually, this game has come together more and more, showing over on Twitter how they had untextured, unrendered units colliding into each other to then see today fully rendered, fully textured units charging full pelt against shield walls. Something that looks absolutely phenomenal and I've yet to get tired of no matter how many times I've seen it. Not to mention the fact that each unit seems to actually respect their battlefield formation even during combat, attempting to hold a line and push against the enemy without losing their formation. At least when we're looking at disciplined soldiers, perhaps with the peasantry and rabble, that might well break down a little quicker. And something that you'll have noticed throughout these images is we have such variance in the weaponry that they're using. Spears, billhooks, axes. There's going to be plenty of choice in this game on how you arm your soldiers, which of course means plenty of strategic consideration upon the battlefield. And as if that's not enough, environmental advantages will be a factor within the game. Fighting in the trees, fighting on the hills, you will need to consider the environment just as much as the units as you go about your wars. Which, although nothing new to the strategy gaming community, is certainly impressive coming from an indie dev. And having this on pause, we can see our militia foot, in combat, a nice morale bar so we can quickly see how well the unit's doing, as well as these buffs and debuffs in effect, fatigue playing a role in the unit, environmental factors coming into play, and the unity of their formation actually providing quite a large advantage to the unit as it fights. Something that will play a factor as you start to use close and loose formations. You have to consider what you're facing against, how fast you want to move, whether you're being hit by skirmishers. Essentially, when you finally build those units, you're really going to have to think as you go on this game. And this extends even to your ranged units. Being able to use such things as quick draw to allow you to quickly fire down field against the enemy. By providing buffs and debuffs to every stance and action, Manor Lords looks to be one of the better balanced strategy games coming soon. And once more, I am genuinely impressed that an indie dev has actually managed to pull this off all by themselves. And as if to put the icing on the cake, they even wish you a nice Merry Christmas from Slavic Magic themselves, providing some excellent close-ups of some settlements that you may just build. So there you are, Manor Lords, a game to watch out for and look forward to soon. And of course, if you want to learn more about this game, you can always check out their website, though I would personally recommend going onto their Discord, Twitter page, or subreddit to get the most up-to-date news as and when it's delivered. Finally, the game is available for wishlist on Steam and acts as a great way to support the developer, showing an interest in it and helping its promotion upon the platform. This has been BearNews, I've been Bear, thank you for watching, and as always, peace out.